We're leaving 2023 and entering to 2024. Time goes so fast, but during this time of 2023, we had very extraordinary speakers and enlightenment coming from each speaker on stopping the violence in America. As you know, stopping the violence, this webinar began with us really focusing on gun violence, because when gun violence is really getting out of hand, you can see violence everywhere around the world. But we have focused more of our attention on the violence in America. The violence in America is still astronomical. However, America plays a very, very central role in playing what we call a prototype role. If America can find some solutions in reducing the crime, then it will multiply much more easier throughout the world. We have that kind of a platform. America always had that kind of platform, and vice versa. People see extreme violence in America. They tend to accuse America. You try to tell us, but look what you're doing. So obviously what that is saying is that they are looking at America for answers. So this webinar has been a webinar where we're looking for answers. We're looking for solutions. And what we have found that there are solutions out there. But what I've always have said to this audience and others is that after really having on these extraordinary speakers, well, we have politicians, we have judges, we have law enforcement officers, and we have Christian leaders. We've had community activists and so on that have come on. And we realize that they have been incrementally putting a little small dent in the reduction of crime. But one of the things that we have found out was that crime just does not appear osmosively out of nowhere. It is stemming from somewhere. And we decided, after really looking closely and hearing very intently from the different speakers, that there's a root cause. There are root causes to violence. And many of the speakers have dealt with prevention, have post violence. And what we found out that there is some root causes, and we have to begin to really look at what those root causes really are and tackle them at its root. And I think we will begin to see a reduction in crime and a reduction of a person wanting to harm his own brother and sister. Because our problem is we don't see each other as really brothers and sisters, but we are. In the eyes of God, we are. However, humanity has fallen so low in many ways that we fail to see that. So it's so easy to pick up a gun, pick up some sort of weapon and harm another person. But also, it's not just out of pure callousness, but it's also out of some pains and suffering that a lot of the victimizers have endured and experienced in themselves, that have morphed into them also extending themselves to hurt others, because the pain they have gone through has never been healed or addressed in a proper manner. So today it's called Recapping 2023. And we're going to look at all the speakers that we've had, and we're going to have kind of like an open discussion. I've asked my dear sister, Dr. Madeline Alexander, and my brother, Dr. Franklin, Reverend Franklin, as we say, and others to really chime in, because they have been, and as many are on this call, have been diligently on and playing a really critical part in a lot of the responses to each one of the speakers. So today, And I realize sometimes when I start, I don't introduce myself. So at the end of the year, I want to introduce myself. I just realized I don't tell you my name. So people out there, you guys know me, but maybe people out there alive don't know who I am. My name is Reverend Zachary Oliver. I'm the Vice President of UPF, which is Universal Peace Federation. And I do several other projects and other things. But my main source and my main focus is UPF. And as you know, UPF is an organization that deals with different areas of societal ills and how to heal societal ills from politics, from with social issues, and from what they call political issues, all sorts of issues that are plaguing humanity. And you know, as the name says, Universal Peace Federation. So we're about how do we bring peace on earth? And that is a big, big, big $65 million, $64 million question. But yet again, what I've always said as a pastor, that Satan is a liar and a thief, and he's a master intimidator, and his mission is to make us believe that because things are prevailing and look like there's no hope, but there is hope, because God does exist, goodness does exist, and goodness will always prevail in the end. And all of us play a really critical role in that process to bring the final end with peace and love, as it was established, and it was the objective from the beginning. So without any further ado, I would like to put up this is a PowerPoint presentation that our sister Nadia helped put together, but mostly it's with all of the different flyers that we had introducing our different speakers, and we will recap everything that they said, everything that they presented. So let me see if I can show my screen here. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. Can you see that, everyone?
Yeah, we can see it.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Great, great. So, stopping the violence and crime in America, the end of the year, recapping 2023 of all our wonderful speakers. Let's move on. As we began, we have our illustrious sister here. We had Lonnie Poindexter, and his main topic was building the content of character as a road to reducing crime and violence. And of course, our dear sister, who is also going to help, moderate and share some of the points. Also, she used the word recap and overview or recap as we move forward. I'd just like to open up the floor. Anyone like to share something as we move forward on? And I do remember Lonnie Poindexter. Let me give you a little background. He's a good friend of mine. He now was in DC, and he moved to California. However, he did a series of workshops and seminars around the country dealing with the content of character. And his approach was that there's an issue with the content of character. How do we relook at our character? As Martin Luther King said, we don't judge a man by his color of his skin, but we want to judge him by the content of his character. Well, what is the content of character that disallows us to see our brother and other brothers and sisters as brothers and sisters? What this allows us to see from a viewpoint where we feel them more of a threat, but also how can we begin to change our viewpoints and look at them more from a content of our character, which deals with our moral construct. What is the true moral construct in myself? So he did a series of webinars, and in those webinars, he's sharing how once we can recalibrate our character to a more of a moral construct, that plays a critical role in reducing crime. And I'll let my sister speak for herself. Dr. Madeline Clark, welcome.
All right. Thank you so much, Reverend Oliver. You know, we talked about this week after week. And when we talk about a moral consciousness, it always put me in the position to do a self-assessment, to do a self-assessment and to be aware of how I'm treating people, how I'm talking to people, and what does God really expect? Hold on, I'm sorry.
To take our card. It won't go in. We're not trying to be difficult, but it just won't take.
Okay, there it go. There it is. Take your time. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get out of the parking lot. The lady thought she needed help, but the arm rose up. And that's a prime example, to greet her, to sit here, not with a frown or a scowl on my face, but to give at least an impression that I'm approachable for God's business. So as we continue and we talk about character, I think we first have to do that self-reflection to see where we really are and the energy that we're really giving out. When you talk about I'm sorry, I got a little distraction going on here with this vehicle in front of me. When we talk about our character, we want to exhibit the character of Jesus, and that's not always a simple thing to do, but I think if we're honest with ourselves and what we exhibit, it'll be a lot easier. And as we come to that place where we're exhibiting that characteristic and that behavior. Okay, all right, thank you. You too. Okay, sorry, they're having some technical difficulty. But see that God showed me favor. The guy came right out to my rescue. As we're exhibiting this type behavior, those are the things that draw people nigh into us, and that is the example that we want to give out into the community. And those that don't have that, I trust God that they're only a prayer away from it to be able to look at your brother and sister and receive them dearly and deeply. It's just like you said earlier on, Reverend Oliver, a gun is an inanimate object, but it's the person that's picking up the gun. It's the person that has the attitude that's already angry. I call it misplaced aggression, and not being able to really communicate to solve those conflicts. So as we move into 2024, it's been so many people that have been on that have given, tidbits of information, has given a wealth, a plethora of information. But the thing about information, knowledge applied is wisdom. And I think as we move forward and we continue to share the wisdom collectively and individually, I just believe that different doors are going to be open, and we're going to be able to reach a vast group of people to really make changes. And it's one thing that my heart's desire is, we hear about these shootings and the negativity, and it becomes our norm. What I want to say is, if you listen to a news report and there's not a murder, there's not a killing, there's not a shooting, be mindful of that and praise God for that segment in time. Because I think once we glorify Him for the small things, that those larger things will come to a place of collapsing, and we'll be able to move forward in a more positive mindset and communities.
Thank you.
So in saying that, I hope I covered enough information. But if you have any questions, I'm available to answer your questions.
Well, thank you, my dear sister. Dr. Madeline Clark Alexander. Thank you so much for multitasking and still doing a great job.
Thank
So, you did a great job. So
thank
I would like just to ask, moving on, and after I'm going to ask my brother, because I asked those two to be kind of introductory statements, and that's Dr. Madeline Clark Alexander, and also Reverend Daryl Clark. Daryl Alex Daryl Franklin, I'm sorry, Daryl Franklin to share some opening points. I did put up another one, just to stopping the violence. That was in February, and there's an education and judicial system and the route to reducing recidivism and violence. And also we have one of our, that was Judge Judge Mark Alexander, who is honorary general for Arizona and the Republic of Korea and Justice for Peace. He's also an ambassador for peace as well. But also we have one of our ACLC, which is American Clergy Leadership Conference leaders, and that's the Bishop Angelo and Nancy Rosario. And they came on and they spoke very beautifully about, being themselves. Their ministry is out there, being in the street, being a catalyst to stop the violence, looking at people who are at risk in those at-risk behavior areas and neighborhoods, and playing an intricate role in helping them reduce violence and what they do in order to help reduce violence in those communities in the Bronx and where they're originally from. And of course, recidivism is a big, big issue that is plaguing our society and does contribute considerably to violence in America. And that was judged. So I would just like to ask Reverend Franklin if you would like to have a couple of opening statements. Welcome, my brother.
Thank you so much, Reverend Oliver. Thank you, everybody, for participating on this very, very important topic, because it is so important for all of us to engage in these conversations. And because God is asking us to become his remnant that he can use as a foundation to bring about a realization of possibilities of harmony. Because God is a real God. We acknowledge that God is a real God, the author of life. And God created all of it. And, and as you said, Reverend Oliver, it's the devil who's the liar, who put out these information that our differences are reason to justify oppression, or how we have different cultures, or our way of being may not be in harmony, or may be different from other people's way of being. And all these things have its roots in mankind's inability to be able to remain tolerant and respectful of one another. But once we allow ourselves to be able just to slow down, we open up the capacity for God to manifest his love, his essence. And we put ourselves in the position, in that stillness, of being able to identify the realization of God's manifestation in each one of our spirits. And so as we do that, God comes in, because as Jesus said, when two or more are gathered in my name, I am there. And so all of that is to say that this is a higher level of fellowship. We cannot overestimate the power of fellowship. Having communication, restoring the art of communication, taking a moment just to put our cell phones down, get away from the TV just a little bit. I'm not blaming the TV or those things. They have their place, but at the same time, it is crucial for our civilization to continue to be able to develop our capacity to be able to communicate and and explore our reason, our ability to reason with one another. Because by doing that and being still, we don't talk over each other. We have the capacity to be able to understand where somebody is coming from. And and so and so one of the beautiful things about this platform is that we see men and women who are going right on the front line and addressing the real issue, which have been the precursors of the germination of violence or unrest. And once those people who go out there and to be able to address the reality of the situation, God always shows up, and God has his ability or her ability to be able to show the real solution, the real healing paths, the blueprints that serve as remedies that create the trajectory of healing of that situation. So it's throwing money at the situation, but actually just really looking realistically at the circumstances and taking a realistic at the circumstances, the underlying causes show, and these heroes, they address that. And I hope that more and more of this platform can be promoted in more higher levels of our government. And these are the teachers of our government, or the foundation of future government institutions. And those are my brief takeaways from it. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. And you're so correct. What we're finding, and I'm just going to do a real fast recap of all of the persons that have come on, so you can see them in their titles. But Reverend Franklin, I think what you have said was so correct, and that is that once you get people out there and concerned individuals who decide to go against the grain and go against the whole concept that it's impossible to bring any resolution, what they find is when they go out there and sacrifice themselves and put themselves out for the sake of those people out there, then they find that there are some solutions and that we can break through those seemingly impossible barriers that humanity is facing, that causes and, like you said, germinates more violence between brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for that. Let me just recap a little bit. We had Stopping the Violence with Education and Judicial System, a route to reducing recidivism, which meaning that those who are released from prison are always returning back to prison. As I said, the Rosarios, they also played a critical role in how they are out there in the streets. They're spiritual leaders, but they're also community leaders as well. And they're out there in those at-risk communities, making things happen, looking at what it takes in order to help reduce violence in those areas. We had Stopping the Violence with George Washington, founder and CEO of Walking in Honor. What he took a very good look at was looking at just his whole life coming out of a war situation. He was he was in I don't know where was he, in Iraq or one of those war-torn situations. He was post-traumatic syndrome of that he was facing, and out of that he morphed into really looking at it from a holistic point of view that also played a critical role and looking what ails, what are the traumas that also the people who are in war-torn situations in their communities, what kind of traumas are they facing that cause them to extend harm to others. But one of the things that he struck me, and I didn't realize that especially the kids in color, children, African Americans, he was saying that they had the highest rate of suicide. I had no idea. that, and then he was looking at what is the cause of that? What is the root cause of that kind of trauma that causes someone to take their own lives? And of course, we had Reverend Darren Faulkner. He came on many times, and I always liked his approach because his approach was, how do we bring a multifaceted community, educators, leaders, different areas of social action, and bring them together and gel into one, so that we can bring one solution, a united solution to reducing crime and violence in our community. And he has some, they've already have some programs that are already shown that that kind of outreach, that kind of message does work. And we have here Frank Murphy, Mentoring with Purpose, the route to reducing violence. He, an NFL player, had met him, and he was just sharing his hopes and strengths and avenues that he's taking in post and prevention and post violence within those communities, and finding how critical it is to have a mentoring as one of the areas of reducing crime in these at-risk communities, because many of these children are raised in a single parent home, and many times there's almost no parent because one parent is out trying to survive, so they're out there, they're alone raising themselves, not having the mentor, not having an elder, not having a parent to help guide them and guide their whole social behavior. Then we had, of course, initiated the Day of Nonviolence, and that's Dr. Louis Rao, who was a co-pastor of ACLC, National ACLC, and as you know, he always felt that let's take it to another notch and have a National Day of Nonviolence, stemming from the powerful words of Martin Luther King, that we can address all violence that is plaguing America and plaguing the world at large. We had Mr. Marion Frampton, CEO and founder for the nonprofit organization at TBS News Direction, and inflict resolution. Words are more powerful than the gun. That is very powerful. And we had healing at risk community. So this time, this is a couple that has doing extraordinary healing communities through their webinars and through their workshops that they give. They go into these at-risk communities and deal with these young people, and their whole healing structure and what methods they use is really extraordinary and has extraordinary results. That is the Dr. Salim and Dr. Ivy Hilton. Next, we had Pastor Troy Martinez. There is power in presence, as it provides a safe environment that enables students to thrive as they focus on their education. I had met him personally in Las Vegas, and subsequently he came on, and I really appreciate what he was saying. What they did was they just brought fathers to walk the aisles, walk the playgrounds of these schools, just put a certain jacket on, a colorful jacket that is very noticeable, stands out, and the fathers just walk around. They don't say much, but they walk around. They found that just by the presence of a man, a father, helps bring some healing, helps bring some security to young people. Also, that helps to reducing what they call it, the bullying. Those who feel threatened, he said they found out they just go stand near these guys and they feel a sense of safety. But also, they saw a research that a percentage of the violence was curved that was astronomical just by having the fathers walk around very powerful. Then we had bringing transformational hope to the incarcerated while in prison. I think Mr. C.J. Hughes, executive for the Brothers of Blue reentry program at Lansing. He also brought his, I believe, his Christian outreach into the prison system, and by utilizing that, began to convert and also restructure the hearts and minds of those in prison, and they have a very successful rate of those who go through that program don't come back. There's no recidivism. They go out and become viable citizens in their community. We have Pastor Bishop Frank Douglas, the founder of senior pastor of Beth Judah Kojic Ministry. Murders of Sun Drive CMO faith leader to start a multifaceted nonprofit. And he himself is a victim. He's a victim of watching his own son be killed on the street, and how that prompted him to go out and help reduce other fathers and parents from experiencing the heartbreak that he had went through. And he has an extraordinary story, as I do remember, very powerful, heart-wrenching story. But he has a very powerful success rate in the activities that he himself has initiated to help reduce violence and the gun violence between young people out there in those different risk neighborhoods. And as I go by, I'm going to have an open discussion because many people remember more about each person, and they were struck by some of the things he said, but I do remember a lot what he had said as well. Now, shaping the future of youth mental and behavioral support. This is Reverend John Watts. He was extraordinary because Reverend Watts was from Baltimore, and he gave a beautiful story of taking those kids in those at-risk communities into another exposure. He wanted to expose them to something else, and many times he took them to mall, and they acted ugly, but yet again, something he did that still transformed them. And in that transformation, next time he took them, they behaved. And not only that, many of them became fathers and family and fathers of their own families as well. We had Kentucky nonprofit director Greenhouse 17 discuss missions to empower victims of domestic violence. We had Darlene Thomas and Diane Fleet. They were extraordinary as well. We had from a lawbreaker to lawmaker, Mayor Jermaine Wilson, mayor of city of Leavenworth, Kansas. And he had a very extraordinary story because he was in prison, but he transformed himself and while he was in prison, and he came out of prison and became the mayor of the very city that one time he wreaked havoc in, but now he's the mayor. So that's a beautiful, miraculous, and beautiful story. So we had Ambassador Peace advocate, Sheik Ambassador, dedicated to promoting peace and social change, and through his inner understanding of what peace really should be, and he implements it in the construct of social change, violence survivor, helping people gain recovery from trauma. She's an individual that has gone through some violent situations her own self and was traumatized. And in reverse, she went in herself, became a person to help others who have gone through the same experience. That was Tina Medina, MD, ministerial counselor. We had former basketball star and pastor leads efforts in stopping violence and crime in America. He has a very extraordinary story himself. As a religious leader, he himself went out there late at night, and he bridged the gap between two rivalry gangs, and he had to meet them. And his story says he went out one night not telling his wife, but they wanted to meet in some sort of really clandestine place, like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, but he went. And he formed a trust factor between the two gangs, and just by him showing up. So he has an extraordinary program that is success that has brought a lot of those rival gang members together, and many of them have he provided avenues for jobs and changes in their lives, and many of them, the rival gang members, are even working together to help reduce crime in their own communities and becoming more of a viable citizen. So we're seeing how, when you're out there, you see the miracles, as Dr. Madeline said, and Reverend Franklin had said. The miracles are out there. Change is there because we're all God's children. Well, how do we touch those people to help them make those changes and be exposed to the voices that they don't hear, that is necessary to hear to make the changes? Youth, video games, and violence. Reverend John Jackson, who is the vice chair, also the co-chair in ACLC, and I think he did a great job on helping us to understand how video violence plays a critical role and a crucial role in the violence in young people today. Also, Winchester Police Department Sergeant Chaplain promotes community engagement to curb crime and violence, which is a critical piece in violence in our community, especially at-risk communities. And with this whole notion of that was going on last year and the funding of police, what sense does that make? What he was saying is, now how do we, as law enforcement officers, play a critical role in engaging with those communities so we can begin to understand those people in those communities much more better. And when you understand them a little bit better, you have more of appreciation for what they're going through, and you have more compassion to finding out a way to help them instead of imprisoning them. We had a Chicago police officer, psychological counselor and city council dedicated to promote strategy to stopping crime, Barbara Bunfield. She's a police officer for the independent psychological counselor, candidate for 6th Ward at Elder Person in Chicago. And then we had the mayor's office spearheads collaborative efforts. So Melissa Johnson came representing her mayor and sharing what her mayor is doing in collaborative efforts in our communities, collaborative efforts in the police, guiding the police department, and see how they can all work in tandem together to deal with. Also, we had, I think Boston came on one.
Sure, I can put together something.
If we can mute ourselves, it'd be great. Thank you. And of course, Reverend Sharon Style Anderson is distinguished leader.
Follow the light today.
And violence
it's on the Daystar Network.
Can we mute?
Let me give you a couple things, okay, real quick. Sorry about
that. Christian service leadership and executive pastor at a global non-denominational ministry. She has proven track record of driving strong organizational and financial results for churches and nonprofit. Dr. Andrews is dedicated to extend beyond the spiritual realm. She has successfully acquired funding and workforce development programs, developed community programs for the vulnerable, and is currently working on a billion dollar development to expand affordable housing opportunities and to eradicate food deserts. And when you look really deeply at even those typically different situations that at-risk communities do face, they do play a critical role in violence. A young man bridging the gap, bridging the trust gap between the law enforcement and teenagers. C. Webb Curtis Mosley was introduced to me. He's in the Washington, D.C. area, gave an extraordinary sharing on how he himself is out there playing a very strategic role in bridging the gap between those at-risk teenagers and law enforcement. And of course, no matter myself, we had Stand Your Ground. I think we dealt with that Stand Your Ground law, and I believe I wanted to open up a discussion with that Stand Your Own Ground laws as to what is it feasible or not to have your own gun in your own possession legally, and what that means to stand your own ground. And there's another discussion in itself. The redefining reentry, and that was work, what works. And this is Brad Carson, and remember we had him on twice, but the essence of what he was sharing was that getting jobs, and he had a well-rounded cyclical kind of avenues that you have to go through. But the essence of it, how do we get these young people working, legally in jobs? And that plays a critical role in their self-esteem and their ability to stand on their 2 feet and become different, viable individuals in their community. And everybody remembers him. He came on twice, and he gave some details on what he is doing, and it's extraordinary. I met him in Las Vegas personally. We sat again, and I was even much more impressed with what he's sharing. Stop the Violence. Man wearing many hats weighs on the violent issues as current law, government official, former teacher of 30 years, administrator, current EMS, and a family man. Brian has a unique perspective regarding violence. Let's move on. We had Mayor Gardner fighting violence, and he plays a critical role just personally in working hand in hand with law enforcement and also hand in hand with his community. Wonderful gentleman and a great leader in his community is the mayor of Kansas City, Kansas. We had also Chief Fabian Valdez, Chief of Police at San Fernando Valley Police Department. Chief makes community feel safe. His focus is promoting a healthy community environment while having established himself as a court-certified gang expert. We had a gentleman here, Daryl Muhammad, in which I had an excellent opportunity to go out there in the street with him to see what he's doing. He's working diligently. He is part of himself coming out of prison. Yet again, out from that, he became inspired. He began to do extraordinary things in the prison system, and came out and wanted to multiply that to those out there who are needing his help, and those different young people in these at-risk communities. Of course, we did talk about Troy Perez, and here, new chief pledges safer community. Chief Carl Oakman, police chief of Kansas City, Kansas. As you notice, we have a lot of people from Kansas City. He's working in tandem with his mayor, and they're doing extraordinary jobs. And so, as you see here, he is committed to reducing crime and fostering and building trust in law enforcement, which is a critical point. How, as we had said before, how we play how the police force plays a critical role in engaging with the community to bridge that divide, to bridge the estrangement between the two, so that they can come to a place where they can work in tandem to help reduce the violence in those different communities. We had the Barrio books, Changing Lives and Building Character. Very good. Dr. Robert Rettiria did a great job. Again, he focused on character development, which again, as we had indicated before, character development is a really crucial role in reducing crime and helping self-esteem of young people who are more at risk at executing criminal behavior. Interface leader also police chaplain. I was really impressed with him. He's a police chaplain in, where's the Indiana area, but I really was impressed with him because although he's a religious leader, but he also is he's a Muslim, a Muslim faith, but his understanding, his compassion for all humanity and how those who are in those communities, and not only in those communities in the prison system, and what they really need is beyond your religious understanding or your denomination. But how do we impose or implement our spiritual understanding in those healing processes, which transcend if I'm Muslim, Christian, or whatever, it transcends that. He did an excellent job as well. And of course, the wealth of relationship in reducing crime. Pastor Burke is a very good friend of mine. And what he stressed more was, how do you go into dealing with men? He has a group called Man Up. A lot of men come out because men mostly hold in their emotions. They hold in those things that are plaguing them, and they never share them. And this also is some of the root causes of them going out, especially recidivism. So he was talking about how they open a door for men to discuss those issues that are plaguing them so they can begin to help each other, but also they can begin to the process of self-healing. We had Police Sergeant Brian Steele, Executive Vice President of the Fraternal Order of Police from Columbus. We had Diane Fleet, as you remember, she was on before, and the Kentucky Nonprofit Director of the Greenhouse in 17. She came on again, discussed the victims of domestic violence. That's also a violence that we have to deal with. We did talk about him. James Harrison as also came on. James Harrison's mission, the Harrison mission, End Crime and Restore Family. This is a very critical point because although we talk about the fathers and not being in, and we talk about character development, but the character development can only be implemented in structure and concretized through a very good, solid family structure. And those are the things that he discussed as well. And also General Bray, he just came on and last week, and we wanted him to come again. So next in 2024, we want to have him come on. And the underserved, represented, and undervalued, and disenfranchised. And like what he was saying is true, is that what I feel also is that once we go into the root causes, then we can appreciate what traumas people go to that is compounded after one generation, after another generation, after generation, after generation. So they become solely desensitized to certain things that they become a menace to society. But if we go back to understanding what is the root cause, then we can appreciate and understand how in their lives they were underserved, how they really have been underrepresented, undervalued, and became disenfranchised. Now we have, I didn't have up here, I wanted to bring a shout out to also Pamela Johnson. She was a community activist, and sorry if I wanted to. Sorry about that. Yeah, she was one of the community activists in New Jersey. I might put that up, and maybe somebody wants to share a little bit. She was in New Jersey, and she dealt with all kind of three components: engaging the law enforcement, post, and prevention. So she had different community programs that were going on. That she was out there. She was in the very community she was raised in New Jersey, and she has an extraordinary success rate. There's others that I didn't share. One was sorry for her name, but she was a Native American, and she shared also what our Native American communities are going through when it comes to domestic violences and other violences that are there that we're not focused on, but they are a real component of our American society. So I felt so much compassion and so much more understanding and appreciation what our Native American brothers and sisters are going through in their communities that needs to be addressed as well, that contributes to the violence also in America. So I just did a very short recap on what we went through in 2022 and 2023, mostly in 2023. And now we're going into 2024. But want to thank everyone for just listening and being here as well. Those who were consistently here, you've been the backbone also of this program, this webinar, and this most crucial point and crucial topic, stopping the violence in America. I know we're out of time, but we did start a little late, so let's go over a little bit. And I just want to open up the doors. Maybe there was one of the, one of the speakers that I went to, I recapped, that you do remember. They made a very strong impression on you. Please, the doors are open to share your comments, and thank you. Doors are open. Oh, I see Reverend Jenkins. Reverend Jenkins, welcome.
Thank you, Reverend Oliver. I just want to say how much we appreciate this wonderful and most important quality program. And you carry it forward so well. And I'm just amazed at the development of the different angles that we've come to learn about through all the different guest speakers. We are seeing the stopping the violence from every possible angle, from the community leaders to faith leaders to the police, law enforcement, and also people who have been through very tough times themselves and come out of it. I was very impressed with some of the police officers, the one from Georgia that really was talking about the influence of social media, how his work as a police officer had changed so much in the last 20 years. 20 years ago, there was God in the community. The church was respected. Even with the gangs, there was a feeling of authority coming from the pastors. He said that has been supplanted by social media because everyone's connected with social media, and the messages constantly coming out are not godly messages. They're not messages of love and peace. So that really, really affected me. The other one was to see the mayor, Jermaine Wilson, come out of prison to be the mayor of the same city. I think he was in Leavenworth prison, wasn't he? He came out of that prison and became the mayor of Leavenworth. I mean, that's really an amazing story. And it's so great because it gives everybody hope. So I'm so grateful to you, Reverend Oliver, and your leadership. So congratulations. Looking at that whole, list of all the great speakers and the wonderful flyers and everything, it's so moving. And so many of our UPF leaders here, and Dr. James and Mooney and others did so much to find these wonderful guests. Thank you, Son Willett, for the Kentucky law enforcement people, and Tomiko brought some James Watts forward. And thank you so much. Really great job. Thank you. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jackson. You're right. There's so many people here who played a critical role in bringing these people, these wonderful speakers in. And thank you for reminding me. That's one of the flyers that I didn't find it in time, but that was a great one. And that was a brother from the law enforcement guy from Georgia. Yeah. He was correct. That was powerful. That was so powerful. And it is the social media is wreaking havoc in the minds and construct of thinking and behavior of our young people. and it is contributing to criminal behavior and ill behaviors today. So thank you so
Also,
much.
yeah. Also, Dr. Madeline Clark Harris. I'm so moved that she was there, Madeline Alexander. She would always be there, so I knew that the program was safe, even though you had sometimes international duties. And Daryl Franklin, it's always a joy when you come in. You always bring joy and understanding. Thank you, everybody. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Reverend Oliver. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, James, I was going to call you anyway. Thank you.
Well, I may be correct with particular names, but UPI, Dr. Jenkins, what they're doing is it's off the charts. It's combating the social networking that's going on that promotes hatred and distrust and things like that. And so UPI is actually the only one that I really know that's really standing up for love, for love, for spreading peace. And they're doing it in a number of different ways, such as supporting what you're doing, Zachary. How many different interfaith programs are being done?
Yes.
And excellent. And the thing is that who you're bringing in are experts at what they're doing about solving and resolving problems. It's not hearsay. They're doing it. And that's going to grow. That is going to grow because people are starving to have a message on the internet that is positive. It's really, and you're part of it. And all of the other UPI systems that are on the internet, you're part of the solution, not the problem. That's for sure. Anyway, I just wanted to share my appreciations for the people that you bring on, and for the whole UPI organization, because they are combating evil as far as I know. Thank you.
Chief James, you really are right about Reverend Oliver and this program, and this will really also, you yourself have brought so much to us, and he's been in all the different forums. We have forums on different conflict areas in the world. We have the interfaith program and this wonderful Stopping the Violence, and I really appreciate Dr. James Mooney. I met him in a Denny's with Wendy. It was wonderful. One morning we were going to Senator Hatch's homegoing, and she said, "I want you to meet this very special leader." And from then on, he's just really a very high level advisor and man of peace, as well as the chief of one of the original nations of the original people here. So thank you, James. We really love you being here and your family. You do so much for us. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
UPF, our UPF family. Thank you. This is great.
Thank you so much, James, for your comments. Just your face being there every week is such a great support. Thank you so much. And your comments are always excellent. Also, Bruce Suture, my brother.
Oh,
welcome.
Wow.
Yes, thank you, Zagri. Thank you for what you're doing. I guess here in America and also in Africa, from what I hear. Now, I can't compete with the accolades of Dr. Jenkins, but I'll do my best. The one thing that really strikes me is internal and external. And I'll give an example. In Chicago, we have a famous Catholic pastor, Father Flager, who has been fighting against violence. He has an all-black Catholic church. He's white. good friend of Dr. Stallings. But he's been marching for years and years and years through the city, standing up against violence, standing up for the kids. And yet I don't see any change whatsoever in the city of Chicago. Not at all. Today, and Dr. Oliver, you made a couple comments. You said at one point in a couple different situations, you talked about the fathers walking through the schools. And you said just by being there. And then you said when you talked about the two gangs and the basketball star, again, you said just by showing up. But the reality is that just by not having a father present is all the world of difference for these kids. And today in the Chicago Tribune, which I don't usually talk about a lot, but they ran this incredible editorial by a man named Dr. Eddie Korngay, Kornegay. And he said, we deal with all these different efforts to stop the violence in Chicago. But the one thing that's never focused on is the sanctity of the two-parent family. And how if you want to stop violence in Chicago, you don't stop the guns, you don't have the marches against violence, you work doing everything you can possibly do to create the two-parent family. And I know that's exactly, Zachary, what you've been talking about, what your guests have been talking about all year. So thank you very much. I hope we can get Dr. Korngay on your show one time in 2024.
Goal to get him on. I would like, thank you so much, Bruce, always, thank you. Also, I'm going to ask our dear sister, Sun Willett, if she would like to say a couple words. She's always there as a great support, and she herself has brought on some very significant speakers and guests. Welcome. You're muted, Sun.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Jenkins and Dr. Oliver. Yes, I'm happy to work for stopping the violence. Yes, this is, we are working for urgency, for God's calling. When we look at the, God's providence, when it's a really last day, when the really, society is really corrupt, nobody can touch it to fix that kind of a situation, God always send prophets, Noah, Abraham, Moses. God calls somebody. So we are living this, modern world. Everybody feeling very in danger, and how we can, overcome this. People just crying out. Even religious leaders and Christian ministers or, Christians cannot just, they themselves corrupted. So even though, atheist or non-Christian, they can see, are you minister really practicing, as a believer? So when we, have program stopping the violence, it is, we are believer, we are Christian, we are believing God. Yes, everybody hopefully, yes, we are. But we're not just believing God, doing nothing, just watching, don't say anything. But we are stepping in this, dangerous situation. So, True Mother calling us to have a program stopping the violence. God is calling. We have to make a difference, reduce violence, and also stopping the violence finally. So I'm, happy to work, happy to bring more people to come to join. So wherever we do, our activities, already coded in the administration office in spiritual world. It is, not just, we are doing, but that our good deeds always, we will see, we did this together. So I'm so grateful to participate these activities. I want to continue and support, and I want to bring more people. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, son. Wow.
Yeah, thank you. The door is open. I mean, anyone else like to share some as we're coming to close? I want to also just piggyback off of Bruce. It's so true. We don't deal with the actual root cause, and that is the essence and the importance of a two-family home. We are out there in the society is just trying to promote something else. And it's part of that social media that Dr. Jenkins is talking about. It's glamorizing being single. Brian, it's glamorizing doing your own thing. It's glamorizing all those things that are almost like defacing two-family, the importance of two-family homes. There's such stuff out there. So, Ray, welcome.
Wow, Reverend Oliver, wow, I thought you were going to talk for a couple minutes, but thank you. So I've actually really appreciated it. I do run into people in my community. Sometimes I'm out talking to people, witnessing whatever, and they talk about, oh, so-and-so, my cousin was killed, or even so, people are kind of challenging to get them connected. But what I got from this is that this is affecting and has the power to affect many people, because many young people are going through things and they're making decisions of which direction to go. And I think this is really discussing really the core issues, talking about, you do such a good job, and the others, Madeline and Alexander, of talking about beneath the motivation and what, so like this is helping to provide constructive ways of dealing with people's hurts and pains, and offering something more positive and stimulating their thinking to go in a good direction, because obviously being human beings, we always have a choice. So I really appreciate the program. Keep it up.
Thank you, Reverend Craig. Thank you so much. Donna, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you. Well, happy to be here from Alaska. I was so grateful for the introduction of the program where you mentioned that it's hard to have hope in our world sometimes because of headlines and because of current events. And my biggest concern is something like what Sun was reflecting. How do we make this more? How does this small group of 17 participants on today's list multiply all through America, from Alaska to the tip of Florida to all the way to Hawaii? How do we spread this? And you mentioned we're being looked to as role models. And I had been hoping to get a summary of what happened this last year. So I'm really grateful for your wisdom in bringing this together today, because but what's our call to action? You mentioned it in starting up, but how do we bring it into our communities? I participate in a police committee, citizen committee, because of the different issues that have come up between police and citizens at arrests where people have been killed. I participate in sort of a reaction to that, or one of their committees in our local community. And I know we need to participate, but how do we bring the wisdom and the key points that are being learned forward to all of our communities? How do we create, I believe we're doing this for social reform. And we mentioned families and the spirit of families. So it seems like we're giving a call to leadership to be more informed. And if we have the bullets and the talking points, we can we can be influencers. We can bring forward these messages. So I'm encouraging our leadership here, you, Reverend Oliver, and everyone else who's been participating, that we pool our thinking and look at what are our talking points for this coming year? How can we multiply what we've been learning, and how can we really make an impact? Social reform can be real, but it has to be more widespread. I believe we're developing more citizen advocacy points that are why people look to America. People look to America because we value citizenship over dictatorial leadership. We value participation because we're all children in a family of God. That's my concern, and I hope to be addressing it myself personally. I don't want to just task you to do it, but call on us to brainstorm with you.
Yeah, first thing that came to my mind when we're speaking was, yes, it's true. We need to have a brainstorm. I think we brain trust together. One of the initiating brain trust that I thought would be more advantageous, inclusive of us, is I've already spoken with Dr. Jenkins. How do we bring all these wonderful speakers who don't know each other into one room and start to discuss and start to put the action plans together that can spread on a national level, inclusive of us? So yes, I've been thinking about that, and you're so correct. And I think what you just said was so pertinent. And that is, I was thinking this morning, I traveled to Japan and Africa, traveled different places, and I realized that there's a mindset. But America's mindset is so unique. And it's true. We have a universal mindset. So that allows us to embrace everyone. That allows us to see things from different angles, that if you're just in a homogenized situation, you're not able to do that. You're just set. Right. So that's why they are looking to us. And when people get here, they're really mesmerized in the beginning about our mindset when we're here. I travel around the world, and as you do and everyone else there, but when I get back to America, it's like, wow, I really appreciate being here. I appreciate being raised here, because of the mindset. The atmosphere is even different, than even in Europe and places I've been to. So yes, again, thank you, Donna, for sharing that, because I think that that mindset is by design, by heaven's design, and how do we use it as a catalyst for the changing of the vile situations that are out there in the communities and out there in the world, especially in the avenues of reducing violence in America, or ultimately violence in the world. So thank you very much. It's true. So I don't know if Dr. Jenkins is still on here. We did discuss to bring all these guys into one room and to discuss, and bringing you guys here also together as well. Donna, you're correct. I think we should have some glean some talking points as well we can do amongst ourselves. So I look forward to that. Thank you very much for your comment. Anyone else? As we come to our close. Okay, if not, we'll come to a close. Any other closing remarks? I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone who is on here, even Hans Moyer. I see him. He's contributes so much. And you don't, because it is his daughter who designs our flyers every week. So thank you, Hans, for giving birth to Kira. If you want to say something. Yeah.
You're welcome, Zachary. Yeah, I'm just impressed by the different people that you've had on during the course of the year. We put a webinar on once a month with a group of people working together, and you're doing it single-handedly with, of course, support with many people as well. But every week is not an easy thing to do. Just to be there and make it happen. So thank you so much. And I think this kind of end of the year review would be great for all of the affiliated organizations, all of the different efforts and fruits that people have created over the course of the year. So I hope we'll hear from everyone else as well.
Thank you. I don't know if Bruce had his hand up, but before Bruce, one last point here, but I would like to give a great shout out to one of the number one persons who has really supported and is the backbone for me, and that is Nadia. Nadia could not be here because she's with her family and for the holidays, and where she is for internet reception. So she sends her apologies, but she is a backbone. She's helped formulate the PowerPoint and everything else. She's just great. We want to give her a round of applause for all her help and her backbone. She's wonderful. And of course, we could not do this without EJ. EJ is he's always behind the scenes, but he is a critical component to making this thing work. So I want to thank them as well. And yes, and also want to, I don't know, I see Bruce's hands keep going up. Bruce, is that just, it just keeps coming up? If not, I want to thank Dr. Jenkins, because it was Dr. Jenkins who commissioned me to really start this centering on Mother Moon and her efforts and her concern for America and the violence that is prevailing in America. So this has been a wonderful year. And I love it.
You, Reverend Oliver. We're proud of you, and I think God had laid his hand on you for this one. Really coming together. Thank you. We're going to have a great year with you in 2024, and all of our UPF family and our expanded family. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Happy New Year, and we'll see you next year. God bless you.
Hey, see you next year. All right.
All right. See you next year.
Right.
Thank you, Dr. Madeline.
God bless.
Madeline.
God bless.
God bless.
Franklin, everyone. Eleanor, I didn't see Eleanor Watts.
Thank you.
Waterville, I didn't see their hands up.
See you next year.
See you next year.
See you next year.
Yeah. Eleanor, I didn't see your hand up. I don't know if you wanted to say something real quick, but you're welcome. Did you want to say something? I saw her hand up. Didn't see it.
Oh, no, I'm just saying goodbye. I'm saying.
Oh, okay. All right.
Next year.
All right. God bless everyone.
God bless.
God bless. Thank you, son Willett. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You too, Reverend Oliver. Thank you so much.
Okay, Donna. God bless.
Okay, bye-bye. Happy New Year.
Thank you, EJ. Let's give EJ a round.